Hi everyone and welcome to S2 Computing Science. We thought we'd give you a little introduction to the course and introduce you to who your teacher is going to be this year. Let's start off with who we are. So we're a computing department of 3 people, Mrs. Norman, Mr. McMahon and myself, Mrs. Jeans. We're part of a bigger faculty which is mathematics and computing, with Mr. Stewart being the person who's in charge of us and he's a maths teacher. The 3 people who are most likely to be on your timetable is us. So I'm Mrs. Jeans. I have worked at Woodmill High School for 8 years, and here's just a little bit of information about me. So I studied to be a computing science teacher at the University of Stirling. I did a combined degree of computing science, mathematics and education all at once, and I came out and went straight into teaching. So I've been teaching in total for about 11 years. My favourite colour is purple. If you've ever been in my classroom before, maybe with your big brother and sister or something, then it's quite obvious because the walls are purple, the floor's purple. At one point, even the chairs were purple. Unfortunately, they aren't now. When I'm not at school, most place that you're likely to find me is having a catch up with one of my friends. I just really like socialising, having a cup of tea, and a cake. A lot of the time as well, to combat that, I could be found in the gym, lifting weights. I like to go swimming, walking, running. When I'm at home, I love reading and of course playing video games. What good computing teacher doesn't? I've got a beautiful pet cat called Levi Jeans. You can see her in the top right hand side of the screen there. She features in quite a lot of my lessons, not just because of her quirky name, but just because it's a bit of fun. She's a little bit of a diva. She's quite a scaredy cat, quite shy, but she's very photogenic, so she quite often features on my Twitter page as well. When I'm not in the classroom, you're most likely to come across me at Parent Council. I'm Secretary of the Parent Council, so I might know some of your parents from that. I also help organise the S6 Leavers Night prom, and I'm the subject network leader for Fife. So if any of you have been to another school, or maybe your parents are a computing teacher at a different school, then I probably know them because we have a lot of friends throughout the authority and the council. My favourite place to be when I'm not at Woodmill High School is to be at a beautiful white sands beach on the northwest of Scotland called Achmelvik Bay. I go there every year with my whole family, my mum and dad, my husband, my sister, my brother-in-law, my granny granddad, and we have a week of just no phones, no phone signal, no Wi-Fi, out in nature, and I just feel it really recharges my batteries, and I absolutely love it. It's my favourite time of the year. Next member of our department is Mrs. Norman. She's worked at Woodmill High School just a little bit less than me for 6 years. She had 2 different degrees from Robert Gordon's University and Stirling University before she did her PGD in education and came into teaching in computing science. She's worked at different high schools in Dunfermline area actually, but she decided to come to Woodmill because all 3 of her children came to Woodmill. I actually taught all of them, and she just absolutely loved it here. And as soon as there was an opening, she decided that she wanted to come and jump on board too. So it's been great having her. She can usually be found walking out and around the different hills in Fife. And if it's not as nice weather as it's been recently, then more often than not, she's usually at home with a ball of wool in her hand and is furtively knitting some new and wonderful garment that she's going to be wearing to school. She has 2 beautiful Burman cats called Holly and Artie. They're brother and sisters, and they love lying in the sun and quite often go away with her on caravan holidays through the summer holidays when they get the chance. When she's not teaching computing science, Mrs. Norman is quite often found helping out with the Duke of Edinburgh Club. Deals a lot with the admin side of that, and also goes out on the treks and stuff. And she's also a co-founder of the knitting and crochet club at Woodmill High School called the Woodmill Woolly Wonders. Her favourite place to be is a place in Scotland called Portpatrick, where she goes with her caravan, sometimes with her family, sometimes by herself, and is usually surrounded by her knitting every chance that she gets. The last member of the Computing Science department is Mr. McMahon. He's worked at Woodmill High School for a year after finishing his degree at the University of Dundee, where he did a degree in computing science and then went on to do a degree in education. His favourite colour is green. A lot of people think this is because he is from Northern Ireland, but actually it's to do with the fact that he just loves nature and the outdoors, and it makes him happy. When he's not in the classroom, Mr. McMahon is usually found in the kitchen. His 2 favourite hobbies at home include cooking and cleaning, both of which he's very, very good at. So that's usually where you find him when he's not at school. He has a little guinea pig called Malbec who is super, super lazy. So even though Mr. McMahon buys him all really cool things, toys, runs, etc., Malbec will usually just sit on one space in the floor and stay there until he gets to go back into his cage, which I find really funny, and Mr. McMahon doesn't. Outside the classroom, he's usually involved treks with Duke of Edinburgh as well. He helps out the Breakfast Club. He quite often goes up to the Outreach Centre and works with some of the pupils up there. So out and about quite a lot outside the classroom. And his favourite thing to do is to be travelling. So when it's summer holidays, Mr. McMahon's usually going to some new, wonderful, exotic place to visit new people or see new cultures. And yeah, he just absolutely loves it. So that's a little bit about us. I suppose the next thing you want to know is when you'll see us, okay? So at the moment in SC computing, or sorry, in S2 computing, what you'll get is a 150 to 55 minute period a week. Just depends what time of the day you come as to how long your lesson is, okay? And you'll usually find this on your timetable. Your timetable will say which teacher you're allocated to. So when we go back to Woodmill, you'll know which teacher you'll have in the classroom. However, at the moment, just for homework in, we thought it would be easier if I continued to have you all the time. So just like in S1, I'm going to be issuing and communicating with you while we're still in lockdown. What I've also included on this slide, just for a bit of reference and for you to look at, is where we kind of progress after S2. So if you really enjoy your time over the course of this year and you're thinking of continuing with S2 with computing science, then you would move into S3 computing science and then potentially into one of our national courses. We use National 3, National 4 and National 5 computing science, which leads into higher, and if you want to go all the way, into advanced higher. But computer science isn't for everyone, and obviously a lot of people do loads of different things. So we also offer different national progression awards for anyone who wants to come back in S5 and S6, who maybe hasn't continued with computing science. And we do a bit of games development, and we've just recently introduced cyber security. So there's a lot going on in the department, even though we're relatively small. Okay, why is computing science so important? Well, obviously the answer is there's computers everywhere just now. But for us, these are what I think the four main categories are of why we are important. The first thing is your skills. So basically, we learn loads of different skills in computing science and loads of different skills at Woodmill High School. But the main ones in computing science we're looking at building on are things like your logical thinking, your problem solving, computational thinking, and most importantly, resilience, being able to look at a problem and keep working at it until you get it right. And these skills are important for not just computing science, but for everyday life as well. Also, computing science is important for further education. So even if you're not thinking of continuing in a field in computing in the future, all of the skills that you've developed, that problem solving and resilience, is really sought after by colleges, universities, even just employers. So it's a really good subject to get your teeth into for all walks of life. It's also really useful for your other subjects. So we look at things like presentation skills. We'll talk about how to, solve problems. We'll talk about how to present things in different ways, and that can be really useful for your other subjects, especially just now when you're doing homeschooling. You can give your information across in different ways, doing things like video editing and image editing and that type of stuff. That can keeps you on your toes and keeps you creative. And creativity, I suppose, is the most important thing, because the people who are good at computing science today are the people who are going to go on to make the technology and the ideas of tomorrow. So we like to give you a little bit of a freedom within a lot of your work to try and make it creative and personalized to you, so that it's interesting and something that you want to work on. So that's why I think computing science is so important. Okay, the important thing is, what are we actually going to look at in S2 computing science? What are we going to cover? So here's a list of the things that we're going to look at, okay? So I wonder if I can move this a little bit. See if I can put me up there. There we go. Okay, so Unit 1 is looking at the hardware unit, so learning about the different parts inside the computer system, what they're actually used for, how they work together. The next unit is going to be image editing, so we're going to look at some basic skills as to how to use some photo packages, how to edit some images, how to use them as part of different things you're doing, especially as part of web pages. We're then going to look at a little bit of web page creation, where we're going to build our own web pages from raw HTML coding, so writing all the code by yourself, which is really interesting once you get your teeth into it. A lot of people love that unit. We're going to talk a little bit about databases. Databases are so important for today's life. Every complex web page that you use nowadays has a really important database behind it. Anyone who's interested in going up the chain in computing science, up to advanced higher databases are so important. So we're going to look at the basics of that and how that actually works and what impact that makes on the world. And lastly, we're going to look at games programming, focusing on logical thinking, problem solving, pushing ourselves, trying to create something. We've used a variety of different packages when looking at games programming in the past, Game Maker, Scratch, and different things. So that might take on different formats depending on how this year pans out. One thing I should say is every single one of these units will have a homework and an assessment, whether that be practical or a theory assessment, okay? And we'll assess how you're getting on throughout the whole year so that we can kind of target your work when you get to S3 as to the right level for you, okay? So it's really important that you try your best from the very start to make sure you're getting as high grades as possible. Okay. The last thing we're going to look at is communication, okay? So again, let me move this little thing, put it back down the bottom. So all of your communication is going to happen just now through Show My Homework. Everything will be issued through Show My Homework and should be submitted via Show My Homework, especially for you guys, okay? It'll be the main communication for me with you guys at the moment. And if there's any technical issues with accessing work or uploading work, then please let me know so I can help you sort out. I can't fix it if I don't know what's going on, okay? Video demonstrations are what's going to be happening where you have a detailed lesson that needs explained a little bit better, and you guys have been accessing this brilliantly with the stuff that you've been looking at with the S1 Scratch topic, and we'll finish that off at the start of S2 as well, okay? Any videos that we do have, rather than clogging up your phone, we'll upload them to our Computing Science at Woodmill High School YouTube channel, and you should be able to get them from there. Okay, the next thing that will be really useful to have is the internet. Now remember, you can access the internet from loads of different devices. It doesn't have to be a laptop or a desktop. You can access it through your Xbox, through your phone, a tablet, iPad, whatever. But it will probably be quite useful for some of the things you're going to be doing to access the internet, at least for research or perhaps to get different pieces of software that we'll need you to work with this year. Again, any issues, please just speak to us. We'll send work home if that doesn't work for some people. It's no problem whatsoever. Also, what we like to do just now, just because everyone's working from home and we can't do the usual put things on the wall and have celebrations and awards, is we're going to be showing off your work. And this has already started, okay, if you didn't know. At the moment, I'm showcasing all of my stuff on the Woodmill High School Twitter page. My personal one, at Mrs. Jeans, is the one we use for computing science. So I'm showcasing work on there. The stuff that you're sending me through Show My Homework and the pictures that you give me with your work gets put up on there. So it'd be absolutely brilliant if you could send me some stuff and some pictures. That's fantastic. If you don't have Twitter, totally fine. Maybe your parents do or your grandparents do. It would just be really great to let them know where to go if they want to see some of your work. So feel free to give me a wee follow and you can see some of your work. And useful helps and links and things are going to be shared on there as well. Lastly, a lot of you have been sending me stuff through Show My Homework. The Scratch files that you send me, they don't open very well at my end, so I've not been able to access them, but the worksheets and stuff have been brilliant. What I just wanted to say is don't worry about the format of these, okay? I'm not expecting you to be able to print off a worksheet and then fill it all out and scan it into your computer. I don't even have the ability to do that here, so I'm not expecting you guys to be able to do it. But the best thing you can actually do is send me a picture. The quickest access that I get is if you just take a wee picture on your phone of your work, your worksheet, your jotter, whatever it is you've been using, and pop it up on Show My Homework. That's the fastest way that I've been able to get access to people's work, okay? So I just wanted to say don't stress about that. If anyone has any issues with uploading photos, because some of you have phones with very good cameras and the size of the pictures are quite large, then again, just message me and we can sort out, and you can always drop me an email or something instead, okay? Hopefully that's helped alleviate some of the questions that you've got with computing science. If there's anything else, please just drop me a message and I'll try my best to answer it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this year. Hopefully the units will all go ahead in the right order. We might have to change them up a bit if we're still working from home, but we're going to try as much as possible to keep everything as normal as we can so that you are prepared for the rest of your career at Woodmill High School. Take care, be safe, I'll speak to you later. Bye.